done.
I just like giving crap about stuff, dude. It's my MO. Have you not figured this out yet? I like that the warning for at channel is like a screaming rooster. It's my favorite thing.
Right.
Thanks for John. Like,
be careful.
Here. It's a nice cat, Dustin. I like it.
So laggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does all my coding for me.
All right. We'll give everybody like 1 more minute, then we'll get started, guys.
Thanks for the image. This is the best here I've ever gotten. Here, let's party.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's the first time something like that's happened.
I know, right? People just don't have any style. Chris is cleaning it up over here.
Showing how it's done.
Oh, man. Second to last, like kind of the last, but not really the last session. That's fun. Thanks for that, posting that in here, Sean. It's a good question. I want to hit that.
Yep. All right, let's do this.
Yeah, bud.
Sweet. All right. You are screen sharing and presenting to everyone. Perfect. That is the goal. All right. So today I want to talk a little bit about Bootstrap. Just give you guys a couple little demos with Bootstrap. After that, we'll just open up to questions. Any general question you guys have about any of the material that has been covered throughout this course, anything that you would like some clarification on, doesn't make sense to you, just any and everything. And then we'll spend the last 10, 15 minutes, maybe less, depending on what time it is at the end, talking about like next steps moving forward, what you can do and what to expect after this class. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and you can start posting them like Sean already did. And then we'll come back around and address those questions. I just wanted to touch a little bit more on Bootstrap since we didn't get to on Monday. A couple things that I'd like to hit on. So let me get my practice area set up here. Demo area, I guess. No, not 4R. There's an update. I'm going to clear out all my CSS here, and I'm going to clear out all of this as well. Beautiful. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Bootstrap.
Let's do it.
First and foremost with Bootstrap is that to use Bootstrap, you need access to their style sheets. So a couple ways you can do it, but the easiest and most common way is to get what is called a CDN. And CDN stands for Content Distribution Network. And what it is there's a lot of open source code that people have written, lots of libraries, frameworks, stuff like that, that usually help you just do a lot of mundane stuff in coding that you have, a lot of the easy, well, not necessarily easy, but a lot of the really repetitive stuff that you have to do for every project. People have taken code and already written libraries and stuff that already does that kind of stuff. So Bootstrap is a CSS framework. So it gives you a bunch of pre-made classes that help you do a lot of basic styling. And the really good thing about it, if you use it right, you could still make your website look like a custom website because you can still add your own CSS, but you could utilize a lot of Bootstrap's responsiveness and everything that they already have built into it. So your website will look good on a desktop, a tablet, a cell phone, without you having to write all the different media queries and figure out percentages of stuff. They've already done all that for you. So, yeah, look at that. My H1 was not in my body.
What did you say? How did you do?
It's because the indenting's off. There
it is.
All right. So, for most things, most libraries you're using, the best documentation is their website. So I'm going to go to Bootstrap's website. Bootstrap 4 is now out. I know I mentioned this on Monday as well. All of our documentation and prototypes and stuff are still based in Bootstrap 3 because Bootstrap 4 just recently came out to full release within the last month or two. So it's been around for a while, Bootstrap 4, but it was in alpha and beta and stuff for quite a while. So it is actually out now. So anyways, I'm going to go to version 3. And I'm going to go to getting started. Most any outside code you're using will have a website designed in a very similar way. They'll have some getting started page that tells you how to start using it. So one thing you can do with Bootstrap is you can actually just download all the code. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is to get the Bootstrap CDN. That's what I was just talking about. It just links to somewhere on the internet where their CSS file is. So to get Bootstrap to work, all you really need is to get the CSS to work is just this link that links to a style sheet. You can see it, even the relationship is still style sheet. So it's just a style sheet located on the internet. So we're going to copy that and we're going to paste it up in the head of our document. One thing when you're utilizing Bootstrap, you should always put your CSS after Bootstrap's. Yours should come last. And then the reason for that is that goes back to cascading. So it makes it a little bit easier for your styles to overwrite theirs because you want your styles to take precedence over their styles because you want to be able to change stuff a little bit to, like I said, make it look more custom so your website doesn't look like a website that was built from Bootstrap. All right. And then some of Bootstrap has some JavaScript functionality built into it. So if you're doing anything that has the JavaScript functionality, such as a modal, a carousel, stuff like that, stuff that the last prototype, the Bootstrap Redux has you do, you'll actually need the script tag as well. So And once again, you don't have to write any JavaScript. It's JavaScript that someone's already written for you with a bunch of neat functionality.
That still requires jQuery too, right?
Yeah, no, I was wondering that.
It does. I wonder when they're going to move away from that. Never.
Oops. Let's find out. As far as I know, it still does.
Yep.
Yep.
Not as clear an answer as you could hope for.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I figured it would do that. So it also requires another JavaScript library called jQuery. jQuery, if you come to our full immersion, you will learn jQuery. It is a very nice library that just helps you do a lot of what's called DOM manipulation. It helps you move elements around on the screen. Handle like click events. So when you click on a button, you could have it do something. jQuery just makes it easier to handle all that kind of stuff than if you were just writing it all out in vanilla JavaScript. So because the Bootstrap script, this one, because this requires jQuery to work, you have to put jQuery before it. But jQuery needs to load before the Bootstrap one could load. All right, so that should be everything we need to get Bootstrap to work. I'd like to reiterate, a lot of Bootstrap and just the CSS stuff will work without the JavaScript portion of it. It's just if you're using the modal, the carousel, different things like that, then you need the JavaScript. All right, so let me show you some cool stuff that Bootstrap could do. So right out the gate, my Bootstrap demo is off to the left, which is just tragic. So one thing I like to do all the time is I always wrap my whole page inside of a div with a class of container. I'm going to put my H1 inside of there. All right, if I can refresh my page, you can see now I'm a little bit off the left-hand side. What container does is it gives you gutters on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. If I inspect this, go on to body, you see the body goes all the way across the screen, and then when I select container, the blue area is the actual content of the container. Then it has a little bit of margin and then padding, or a little bit of padding and then margin. I set it backwards. And then you can always check out the box model so you can see the actual numbers, stuff like that. Where's the box model? There it is. So it has 15 padding on the left and right, and then 55 margin left and right. So right out the gate, I like headers to be centered. So I could center. What is the Bootstrap one? I've been using Materialize so much lately.
For centering?
Is it like text center or center text?
I think it is text center.
So I could put, I believe it's text center. Oh,
We'll find out, but
yeah.
it's wrong.
There you go. So text center. So Bootstrap has a class called text center that when you put it on an element, it'll center all the text inside of it. So there you go. So it's centered. So once again, this is just all CSS that was written by somebody else that we're taking use of. Because right now I have no custom CSS. I'm just using somebody else's CSS. One of the other big parts of Bootstrap, and one of the most useful things Bootstrap can do, is it has a grid system. So I can make a row. So div row. So a div with a class of row on it. And then now I can make some columns. This works a lot like a table. You could kind of think of it like a Excel or anything like that, any kind of like table type structure. So if I wanted to have, oh my gosh, this chair is the worst design chair of all time.
Yep. Just like let your cat run into it, you're screwed.
All right, so let's say I want to make a row that has two separate columns in it. So I could do another div that is column SM.
That's
XS.
just the smallest one.
Sorry, guys, I'm used to the little bit newer Bootstrap and a different library called Materialize. It's been a little bit since I've messed with this
I was
Bootstrap.
coding in Bootstrap 3 all day today, dude.
Were you?
Yeah.
You were, actually.
Yep.
Is it MD?
That's for medium.
There's XS.
Yeah, there's
SM,
different
MG,
sizes.
LG, and I think that's all of them.
Yeah, so if we look right here, we can see all the different class prefixes. There's XS, SM, MD, and LG. And these will affect your columns at different screen sizes. So this tells you the different breakpoints based on screen size that they'll be. So I'll show you an example of this as soon as we get a first example going. So we'll say XS-6. And I'll actually just make another one of those. All right, and then I'm going to make a class called red and a class called green. So those don't exist in Bootstrap. I'm going to make a couple custom classes. And I'm also going to do make a class to give it some height. What should I call it?
That height?
These are classes that I'm going to make that I have not made yet. Okay, so set height, set height. All right. So here I'm going to say column 1 and column 2. All right. Which the text in there will give them a little bit of height, but
Still no.
yeah. All right, so I'm going to define my red class, and I'm going to give it a background color of red. What was the other one I did? Green?
Green. Should we cut with blue?
And I'll give that one a background color of aquamarine.
Ooh,
A green.
All right.
All right, and then I'll also make my set height class.
So close, dude. E-I-G-H-T.
Oh my gosh. I know how to spell it, I just can't type it.
I've been there, man. That's how I am with work. I always type work as rock, W-R-O-K.
Anything that
Your work rocks. Yeah.
like anything with GH, man. It's something with the H
Fights
letter.
back at you.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right next to each other.
Like you already, it's the H period, because even like with length of alien, yeah,
Yeah,
length,
yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
GHT, all that sort
Yeah,
of
I mess them all up. All right. So, anyways, height, I'm gonna say like I don't know, 150 pixels. All right. So by now we should be able to see something now. So once again, the whole point of this is we're making a row that has two columns in it. And then we're just giving them some color and some height so we could actually see them, because they don't really have any content other than this little bit of text I put in here. Normally, you wouldn't have to necessarily set the height. You wouldn't have to necessarily give it a background color. You actually probably wouldn't, because you would just put some kind of content in here that you'd want to, you know, just be the size of what those columns are.
Whoa.
So yeah, so we have two perfect columns.
Beautiful. You should check center that column 1, column 2.
Yeah, and then so the text, I could do text center. I could actually do it on the whole row. And that'll text center everything inside of there. There we go. Right. So very cool. So it makes two very nice, organized side-by-side columns. So if you guys remember way back in kind of some of the early prototypes you guys did, it has you doing a 2-column layout. It has you like with a side nav or like a little sidebar and then like the bigger area. You can do that with this too. It's a million times easier. I could do like one side of 6, other side of 10.
That's a 2. But yeah. One side of 6. Don't worry about it. Just being checked.
As long as I typed it right. So there you go. So there's your little side area, and then here's the main content area. So it makes doing stuff like I said, it makes it really easy, and it makes it very mobile responsive. What we could also do too is I could say when it's a small screen, I want it to be the full width. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the columns, it's based on a 12-column layout. So each row should equal a total of 12 columns. It doesn't matter how you get there, how many divs, or however you get there, but it's based off of 12 columns. And that's 12 is pretty standard for most libraries. So I'm gonna say when it's small, I actually want them to stack on each other. I want them to both be full width. But I could also say when it's a little bit bigger, let's say the small screen size, I want them to each be 6. And then, so right now they're 6. And then when the screen gets smaller, they're going to stack. Any minute now. Hey! There it goes. So they stack on each other. So because I told it on an extra small screen, be 12, but on a small screen and above, be 6. So then when it goes bigger, it goes back to side by side. It's really cool. I mean, like, it's very powerful what you can do with it, and it helps so much with mobile responsiveness. I would highly recommend playing around with this, guys. They have really good documentation. It's gonna be a little confusing at first because you're new to this, so the documentation can be a little overwhelming. But they have really good examples. So like this that you're looking at right here, here's the code to make that look like that.
We'll post the code too, Sean. Now, I would say this is a super helpful thing, but you always have to keep in mind that eventually, even if you are using Bootstrap, you're going to need because their screen size only goes down to 768 pixels, and phones are about 300. So you're going to have some variance there you're probably going to have to account for, even after Bootstrap has done its magic.
And what you'll want to do a lot of times too is you'll want to, for some of your custom CSS that you're doing, you'll want to put breakpoints at all the same places that Bootstrap is doing it, which is, that's why they're telling you where they're doing it at. So you could write some CSS. You could do your own media queries at the same sizes. So that way you can have your CSS adapt at the same screen sizes that the Bootstrap one is. And then, of course, if you need to put more media queries at any point, or, as to Cody's point, anything smaller, you can. So I highly recommend everybody play around with this. Like I said, Bootstrap could do a lot of cool stuff. Let's see how quick I could do.
Modal.
Yeah. So the modal uses actual JavaScript, but the really cool thing of it is we don't have to write any JavaScript. We could just copy this code, and I'm just going to put it down here. Boop.
Looks super complicated, but it's really just a bunch of layers and stuff.
Yeah, and it just takes the more you guys are exposed to this, the more it'll make more sense. I remember the first time I was doing stuff like this, it was like, oh my gosh, it's so much.
I know a lot of students get super scared about modals.
And like, here's the thing too, is like, I still don't have this memorized. If I'm ever gonna make a Bootstrap modal, I do exactly what I just did, and then go through here and change what I need to change. You want to be really careful that you don't leave stuff. You don't want to leave like modal title or modal title as the H4 because that's obviously you copy and paste it. You want to make sure you go through and change everything appropriately. So let's see what this looks like. It looks like they got away from using IDs,
which is nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Another thing I would say about modals is, if any of you are like intimidated by the concept, I guarantee that any of you could make one in 5 minutes if I showed you how. Like the constructs that are behind a bootstrap modal are very simple. It's just made to look really nice with all the styling you put on it to make it so you got a ready-made header and closing button and all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, all it is creating a little bit of a shadow box that layers over your page, and then absolute positioning something that starts out hidden. It's pretty straightforward.
I need the. There's what I need. Where's the button? It's nowhere because you didn't do anything with it. Got a toggle modal.
I will say, if there's anything about Bootstrap that I freaking love, it's their buttons. Their buttons are so nice.
I like the Bootstrap 4 outline buttons.
I know, they're the bomb, dude. They're so cool.
All right, so there's the button. Is that not inside my thing? Oh, I didn't put everything inside the container. Can't have that.
Beautiful.
There we go. All right. And for everybody that is wondering what the hell is a modal that you guys are talking about?
It's not that.
That's not it.
Hold on to that suspense.
They're so easy to do, guys. See? Oh, it still does need a.
Oh, it's looking.
Still does. Yeah. Data target. So this is where you definitely don't want to leave it as hashtag my modal because that screams I copied and pasted it.
Mm-hmm.
So
anything.
Yeah. So you do like hashtag price alert or something. Whatever the modal's for. And then we'll do an ID. So they didn't get away from using it. I was surprised.
So proud of them.
I was. Now I'm just disappointed again. Price alert. Yeah, yep. Price alert. I just made that up. It's completely arbitrary. But the data target is you're saying, what are you trying to target with this button? It's a button, and I'm trying to target something when it's clicked. And then I'm targeting something with an ID on it. In this case, the ID is on this modal. Try this again.
Hey, there we go. That's the modal.
That's a modal. It's just dimmed out background with a little box in it.
The one thing that Bootstrap's modal brings to the table, which is a little harder to emulate, is the fade in and fade out thing. You could still do that yourself.
Drop down and fade in. Yeah.
But it would take a little bit longer. Just a little bit. I mean, you could easily do that in like 30 minutes.
But hey, if you're using Bootstrap, take advantage of the modal. It's beautiful.
It's really nice.
It's very nice, very easy to do.
The only downside I would say is that it's obviously Bootstrap. So people might call you on that. But that's some pretty minor downside.
You could do a few custom things to it to spice it up a little bit.
It's true. Probably could. Yeah.
So that's a Bootstrap modal. Bootstrap modal and Bootstrap columns. Boom.
Blow it up. Sean very kindly asked if we could share the code when we're done.
Absolutely not.
There we go. Send that button, don't you?
I was gonna type class. So why isn't class name popping up?
Somebody stuck in React mode.
So much. And then text. Center.
So nice though. Looks beautiful.
And then this doesn't have the margin classes in it.
No, it doesn't. I was upset about that earlier today. I had to make my own little sides for it.
Margin top.
That's the Bootstrap 4 thing.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to make it yourself. if you were using Bootstrap 4, this would be part of it. But just like anything with Bootstrap, it's just CSS.
Yep.
So you can make your own.
Yeah, you can do. Bootstrap doesn't do anything that you can't do on your own.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it a lot easier.
There's no magic underneath the hood. Just somebody worked really hard making really nice CSS.
Yep. Pretty bulletproof CSS that works in almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I will put this into a JS bin for you guys and share it with you. And if anybody has any other questions on Bootstrap, now's the time to ask. If you have any questions on anything else, too bad. Now, if you have questions on anything else, go ahead. Now's the time to ask.
I can throw out the first one if you want.
As in you're going to answer it, or?
As in, like, I'll say it out loud so we can answer it together.
Okay, so I'll let you answer it.
Okay, sounds good. So, Sean was asking if a div tag can replace header tags or footer tags or p tags, and if the div tag functions the same as those tags it would replace. The answer to that is it can replace it, but you'd have to work because headers and footers less so, but p tags have innate styling on them already. And one of the best things about div tags is they're a blank slate. The only thing the div brings with it is that it's a block level element, and everything else is you get to just put on whatever you want. So it'll do the Bootstrap thing. You just copy the whole thing, dude. What are you trying to do?
What are you trying to do?
You look like you were stressed that didn't have the Bootstrap class ready for you.
I was.
You're gonna fix it? Okay. Don't worry about that.
So what I would like to add to that is like the HTML5 semantic elements. I don't know why I didn't get a chance. Oh, actually, I missed a couple days. Oh, okay. Yeah. So most of the HTML5 semantic elements, things like headers and footers, they're just divs. That's all they are. Mm-hmm. A p tag, in all technicality, it's just a div too, but it has by default, it usually has some top and bottom margin on it. But you can make a div act like any other element. The reason why we use different elements that have different names is so people looking at your code can kind of have a general idea of what you're doing. Because, I mean, even like an H1, you could make a div look exactly like an H1. The H1's not doing anything special. It just has some kind of built-in style from the user agent style sheet that H1s are expected to have in all browsers. But you can write your own CSS for a div, make the font size 2EM, and then add like 40 pixels of margin top and bottom, and then it's the exact same thing. So yes, you can replace a div with anything. Should you? No. Because like I said, you want people to be able to look at your code and know what your intention was. Like, what are they trying to do here? With that said, with the HTML5 elements, while they're really nice and a good idea, and I wish more people used them, a lot of people don't tend to use them. I don't know what the deal. I don't know if it's just because it's new or but it's not even that new at this point.
It isn't.
Maybe it's just too late at this point.
Probably.
We've gone too far. So depending on where you go, you might not see people using header, footer, aside, article, section, all the HTML5 stuff. I've seen it on live websites, few and far between. So I don't know about you guys, but when I first started doing this, I started inspecting every single website I went on.
I did the same thing. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you see some really interesting stuff. You see some really crazy stuff.
It tweaks me when they minify their code, though.
Yeah, most of them do.
Which is a real bummer because I want to see how it's working. But I'm sure there's a privacy component to that, too. But yeah, all that. So it can replace, divs can replace anything because they're a blank slate. You can build them to be whatever you want, but you still want to use the things that are designed for the purpose that you're looking for. And then, good question, by the way. Paul wants to go over media queries for MBoutique. So
for MBoutique?
Yeah, I mean, we could probably just talk about media.
I'll talk about media queries, yeah. I'll show you.
If you have a specific question, Paul, feel free to throw it out. Otherwise, we're just going to go over media queries in general. So
yeah, because otherwise that's way too broad of a thing. But I'll be more than happy to talk about media queries.
You're welcome, Sean, by the way.
I'm not logged in.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Doesn't say good morning or good afternoon.
It does not.
Sorry. Okay, yeah. So yeah, he just wants to know about making it look good on browsers, but also making it look good on phones. That's kind of like a general thing for media queries. We'll just kind of go over the layout of how that would work. A couple others typing. Brings like nothing to the table.
Oh. Oh my gosh.
Beautiful.
Doing these classes at night. My brain's mush by the time I get here. All right. So there's that example. Oh, man.
That
All right.
chair is attacking.
Having all kinds of problems over here. All right. So I'm going to put all this out. New one. So first thing that's very important about media queries, if you want the media queries to work, you need this meta tag in there. Okay, so you got to make sure you have that meta tag to get the media queries to work. And then I will link my style. Okay, so I will make a div that has a container. Man, I got quiet.
Must have finished up your talk.
Yeah, because it was like loud.
Or they're plotting something.
Yeah, we're all gonna die. And inside my container, I will make a box. And then I'll make like box 1. Box 2. Like 3 boxes.
I had to do that with Emmett recently.
Do what?
Make it iterate itself like that.
Oh, what the class is?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Super fun, dude. Emmett.
All right. So I have just a basic container. Got some boxes in it. So I'm going to delete all this. I'm going to do container. I'm going to do my container, the width, like 80% the view width. I'm going to do display flex. This has nothing to do with queries. Just going to so it'll be nice and centered. And height 100 height. All right, then I'll have my box, or all my boxes, that will be height 150 pixels, give or take. Width 150 pixels. Width display inline block with margin 2. And then I'll give them all a border so we could see them. Border 3 pixels solid.
Chartreuse.
Nope. All right, let's see what I got going on here. That's not the right thing. There we go. Oh, I need margin auto on this. Beautiful.
Gorgeous. Minimalist.
Right? So I have 3 boxes. Then I also have 3 different classes for all the different boxes. So I have a B1 class, which is a background color of
Question mark chartreuse.
what does that start with?
CHAR. Yeah. Interesting and beautiful. I love it.
It's like a lime green.
I know, it's the worst.
And then we'll do B2 with, we'll do Dan's favorite, lavender. And then we'll do my favorite. I think it is, Cody. Do it all the time.
Pass. I'm going to know as soon as you do it. Oh, duh. What was I thinking, man?
I don't know. You weren't. So we got Cody's favorite CSS color, Dan's favorite CSS color, my favorite.
It's beautiful. I love it. Aw.
Man.
It's kind of nice.
It actually does. It actually kind of all goes together.
Hot pink and chartreuse, complimentary. Who could have guessed? Wow. Take it to market, guys.
Yeah. Doing it live. All right. So what we could do now is we could use some media queries to make some changes to this based on the screen size. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change the background color based on the screen size. Not something you would normally do. But you can put any CSS inside of a media query. It doesn't matter. You can have it do anything you want. All right. So with that said, right now my thing's about 1280 pixels wide. Okay. So I'm going to come down here. Media queries should always be at the bottom because they need to override. At media and what is
I
this?
think it's at media screen and.
You don't have to do the screen thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always thought I had to do that, dude. That's crazy.
And then I always forget min.
Max width or min width?
I always forget
What's max width?
which one to do.
Max dash width.
Max.
And you set like the cutoff point.
Something's wrong. Yeah. Max width of, let's say, 950 pixels. I think I have something wrong.
Oh, you're good. It's just like
maybe it does need the screen thing. I think you do without it.
It would have been cool if you could.
Oh, you know what I was thinking of?
Oh, I've never seen that before. Fascinating. What other media or other types?
The coolest one, I think, is print.
Oh, so formats
So
like printer.
you could hide elements for printing.
Oh, dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that's what the whole like
So you get-
friendly version is.
Yeah, the printer-friendly version is that. So you could actually have it, yeah, like I said, hide images and stuff like that. So that way you can always smell your ink.
Dude, that's really neat.
Yes.
You should go to my favorite recipe website. I bet they've got those all over the place.
So screen, that means the computer screen. There's a whole bunch of other ones that are kind of deprecated at this point, but there was like projector, freaking all like TV, all kinds of different things that used to exist.
That's weird.
But screen's the kind of the most common one. So we're gonna say, so anything below 950 pixels, this should apply to.
Mm-hmm. 950 pixels or less.
So
exceeds
it's
that,
inclusive?
then, yeah.
All right, so what we'll do, and then we can just put any CSS rules in here we want. So I'm going to target Cody's color.
Yeah, but
And I'm going to change it to something else. I want it to be something pretty dramatically different. So like blue.
I'm so offended right now.
And then refresh the page. And then here, let me do this so you guys can actually see the different screen sizes.
Whoa.
So you can see up at the top left up here, the screen right now is at 799 pixels. And if I go up, 950, wow, that was smooth. 951, changes color.
Yeah.
So it applies different CSS at different screen sizes. So what you could do is, this is a great tool to play with. Okay, how does this look on smaller screens? So these start running into each other at
593.
So at 590.
I would start switching at like 595. Avoid it getting too close.
Okay, so at 595, these start getting really close. So I want to change the way that works. So I could do another media query. So add media to screen and max width 595 pixels. I'm going to target all of the boxes. So I'm going to say dot box. And I'm going to say height is 75 pixels. And the width is 75 pixels.
Snap.
There you go. So as I get close, and then, we could even do it again at, 320 pixels. You just copy this. See how I played with it to see where there's issues, and you put media queries. Now you don't want to put, every time you run into an issue, you don't want to have to put a media query. Otherwise you'll be putting media queries every 50 pixels. So you need to use a combination of, percentages and stuff like that to kind of have stuff dynamically sized. But then you could also use a combination of that and breakpoints to make a little bit bigger jumps. Also, guys, I cannot stress this enough because I see students doing it time and time again. Most of the times you don't need to set heights to stuff, okay? Unless you have something without content and you want it to be a certain height, then you can set a height to something, but you really almost never do you need to use any kind of percentage for a height. Okay? It's almost always going to lead to issues if you start trying to set heights. So avoid it like the plague. It just came up. I had a student was having trouble.
Yep.
That's fresh in my mind.
But it is super frequent. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Especially text content stuff. If you have something that's supposed to have text in it, just don't set a height on it.
Something's wrong. What did I do wrong?
What do you mean?
Oh, this is wrong. I never changed the pixels.
Do it 320, yeah.
There you go.
There it is.
Big, small, small. And then at some point you really just.
There's nothing that's going to be 160.
I usually style to about, if I really care, 280. But even most cell phone, nothing really goes below 300 as far as screen width.
I think iPhone X is the thinnest one, and that's 320, right? Find out.
It's more than that. 375.
Yeah, and that's about as thin as screens get.
Yeah, especially the Galaxy and the iPhone 8 and all that stuff. Those are 420-ish. So yeah, so really cool. Media queries are a lot of fun. And what else you could do, because it's my favorite thing in the world with CSS, is I could put a transition duration.
Oh yeah.
of like 1 second. So as it goes through its transitions, it'll fade. There we go. Boom, boom, and then same with the size.
Makes it feel so nice as you're transitioning stuff.
Right?
Look at that. Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Production code, guys.
We're ready for ready for market. All right, so whoever asked about media queries, hopefully that answers your question. There is also a min width you could do as well, so that kind of works in the opposite direction.
Most things are formatted for max width, though.
Yeah,
That's
it's
kind of
a little bit
best
easier to
practices.
use. Yeah, it's easier to use. And like I said, you can put any CSS inside of these that you want. So, yeah.
The whole, like, what media queries are doing, if it's not super clear, is it's just a portion of your style sheet that's withheld until that condition is met.
Yep.
So as soon as your width hits 950 pixels or less, that now becomes part of your style sheet. But until that time, it doesn't.
It doesn't read it. It ignores it until whatever this is here is met.
So that's really all a media query is. It's just a conditional portion of your CSS.
It's allowing you to kind of like hide some of your CSS off to the side.
Once the threshold is met, it's like, surprise.
Yeah, I'm
It's like,
here.
now I exist
Right.
again.
Okay.
So yeah,
Was there any other questions?
nothing yet. If anybody's got any other ones,
What
start
about
throwing
from
them
our
out.
live studio audience?
Yeah.
Good.
So no.
Okay. Well, I hope everybody's been enjoying this class. Hopefully. Hopefully you guys saw how much how much work it takes to do this stuff. I don't want that to discourage you, though. I mean, I want people to realize what this takes, but also at the same time not be discouraged. Don't think you could just kind of come in here, skate through it, and get a job at the end.
Right.
It takes work.
The flip side of that is that any good employer worth their salt knows it takes work. So if you're going to work hard, they're going to know that it takes like more than 5 seconds to put together a website, you know?
I was more talking about going to school to learn web development.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Still true, though.
Still true.
I thought you were talking about coding in general, like putting stuff
Oh,
together.
no, yeah, it all takes work. If you guys are continuing on with us and you're starting on Monday, we'll see you on Monday. Also, if you are starting the full immersion on Monday, you should come in Saturday. This Saturday. Once again, Saturday is the quote-unquote optional day. Really, if you're coming to the full immersion on Monday, I really suggest you be here. For everybody else, we would love to have you. Once again, there's no direct actual lesson plan, but you're more than welcome to come in, get help, get one-on-one help. You know, we're more than happy to walk you guys through anything, help you with anything you're working on. If you've made it through all the material and we're looking for something a little bit more challenging, we'd be more than happy to, you know, give you some more work, challenging work that would hopefully be fun. So we'll be here for that, me and Cody, and probably Dan.
Probably.
I don't know.
I think he will be.
He might take it.
At the very least.
Oh yeah, because he always does that. Yeah, if you're in JS, Dan still does a lecture on the third weekend because JavaScript is, you know, you need
It's
that.
dense. You
Yeah.
need that stuff. Yeah.
And if you want to come in early on Saturday and get help with JavaScript, I think Cody knows some JavaScript.
Here and there.
I'm still kind of new to it, but
I've been reading about these things called variables.
variables
Seem pretty interesting.
scary. So we'd be more than happy to help you with some JavaScript, or like I said, anything else you guys want, or you know, just come hang out with us, eat some donuts.
Stuff.
If you're not going on with LearningFuze at all, stick to it. If you enjoy doing this, just keep practicing. You'll get it eventually. It's obviously a longer road doing it on your own, but it's not impossible. A lot of developers start from self-training, and you know, with a little boost from this class, you know, as long as you put a lot of hard work and dedication in, you could probably eventually get there on your own. And you know, 10 years. It'll take a lot of time, but it's possible. I know not everybody has the time to do the full immersion. Not to be sales pitchy, but I'm going to be sales pitchy for half a second here.
Go for it.
We are looking to starting a part-time program in the next few months. So keep an eye out for that if that'd be something you're interested in, if you can't do the full immersion. So, and this is the first time I've ever brought it up. So this is not part of my normal, like, so I'm not trying to sell you guys.
Yeah.
I wish everybody the best of luck. Yeah, I wish everybody the best of luck no matter what you guys are doing. Yeah, whether it's a different boot camp, continuing with us, or just going to keep self-studying, good luck. We're always here for you if you need any help. As far as the material for this class goes, it'll be available to you in the agenda. You'll just have to go back a week at a time to actually come back to the correct dates, but the material will be there. There's no way that any of you most likely went through every piece of material that was in the agenda up to this point. I think literally you'd have to probably do it like 18 hours a day to get through everything. So take the opportunity now, finish up what you're working on now, get to the end of the material, go back and go through all the supplemental material and kind of revisit a lot of the material. It's all going to make a lot more sense the second time through. Now that you've been exposed to it and some of it, might be starting to click, another round through it, everything will make a million times more sense. And just don't stop coding. If you do truly want to code, the best advice I could give you, don't stop coding. Make sure you're coding every day. Just my best word of advice is always just play with the code. Always just write some code. You can read about it. You can sit here and listen to me. You can watch videos till you're blue in the face. The only way you're going to learn to code is by writing code. Don't be afraid of it. Just jump in and start doing it. So what else am I missing?
I think that's about it, man. All the things you said times two.
Times two.
Yeah.
Cody's doubling down on it.
Yeah.
If you, one other thing I forgot to mention, because, as the weeks and months go by, the agenda falls farther behind. If you're planning on taking a full immersion down the road from now, I think you have a year to do it to still get credit for this class. Just reach out to us and we'll give you access to the current root class. So that way you can re-go through the material and you don't have to go back all the weeks and everything.
Oh, and that
just makes it a little bit ease of use for you.
That also brings up another thing. For those of you who aren't doing the full immersion yet, or you're still not entirely sure, but you want to continue to learn on your own, this is still an open forum for you. Come into LearningFuze anytime, ask questions, work in the alumni room, chat with the people that are here, get perspective on what you're learning. Just because you're not in the full immersion doesn't mean you have to leave when you're done with the class.
Absolutely. And as I think I mentioned this on Monday too, the Slack channel, we do have to reset the root level 1 Slack channel for the next class. But you still have access to the general channel. You can still private message people. So you still have access to us. And like I said, the general channel is a great place to ask coding questions because it has all the alumni, all the people that have been through here, plus all the instructors and everything like that. You will get an answer from somebody, and especially in the general channel, usually pretty quick because there's so many people that
A lot of people are
hang out on there.
Yeah.
So don't give up. Keep at it, man. Just keep pushing forward. If you had any fun at all doing this, you'll love it as a career. I've had a lot of different jobs. I've had jobs I've hated. I've had jobs I've enjoyed. But this is the first job I've loved.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say it that cheesy, but it's true, though. I really love this job, and, I love coding. So I do have a passion for it.
I think so.
I heard Cody too.
40 and slip. Definitely 40 and
I
slip.
love you too, buddy.
So I think that's it, guys. It's been a pleasure teaching you. It's been a little bit of a quiet class, but that doesn't mean you weren't a good class.
Yeah.
So
Keep learning, keep pushing to find new things, always try new stuff, break everything, and then see why it broke. That's the best way to do anything, man.
That's how I still learn to code.
For sure.
All right, guys.
Welcome, dudes.
Unless anybody has any last quick minute questions, we're out. All right.
Howdy.
See you guys.
Later.
Thank you all. Hope to see some of you on Saturday.